Hi folks, with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about an approach. This is not the first approach I've had, but an approach from some sleazy fucking outfit that says we can, if you're hiring people, and we've been running some adverts recently to hire people, and this is why I think they came onto us, but one of my colleagues took the thing and then handballed it to me. But the service they're offering, these sleazos are offering, is effectively this: if you get a job applicant and they cite anybody, whether it's somebody to, the parking lot attendant or a senior role, you can do a detailed background check on them without them knowing and without their consent. The head office and the main sort of software engine room that drives this is in some third world shithole country. So the laws of privacy and things like that and probity don't apply. It's interesting that they're selling honesty and probity services in a way that has no honesty and probity. I rather like that. But anyway, the guy who's just as sleazy as the service would suggest or imply, who seems to get off on the idea of you can see them but they can't see you, it came across sort of rather badly. But I wanted to know where it went, so they sent emails and information. They're quite proud of it, really, which is odd. And I don't know how long it'll be before they're dragged into court and have the crap suit out of them. But they transgress all sorts of privacy laws, in my view at least, and they should have the crap suit out of them. But I'm against this idea of government or a private, in this case a private company, snooping without your knowledge or consent. Now, I don't know if they're doing it or when they're doing it, but in my view, the government should, given so far as they're meant to represent the people, even though they don't any longer, they once did, and therefore snooping on private citizens, then using that information you gather without the citizens' knowledge against those very same citizens that you may have misunderstood or misinterpreted or something like that. So this is what they do. They claim that they can. This is the services they offer. They claim that they can verify any claims in your CV that you worked for, a company ABC for 10 years, whatever it is. They claim they can verify this on a strictly true or false basis. Now, I don't know anyone that doesn't dress up their CV. So if say we put in the advert, you must have a minimum of 10 years experience, and someone's worked for 9 years and 6 months somewhere, and in the job application they would say they worked there for 10 years. I don't care about that. That's not a big, everybody does it. It's not a big enough deal, in my view, to get excited about, nor is it an indication of dishonesty or deceit or anything like that. I think that sort of stretching of the facts is almost irrelevant. So, and it's almost a rounding off thing. If you got 99 or something and you say it's 100, I mean, who cares? It's just a rounding error, not an actual act of premeditated deceit. Anyway, they can do that. They claim they can match it. How the fuck they do that, I don't know. They claim they can check out any social media footprint you have. So I suppose there are like employment websites or business websites where people post their CVs. Maybe they check the application information against the CV. Maybe that's what they do. But the guy was vague on it. We can check those things, we know, and sort of gave a rather sinister chuckle. They claim to any license you claim you have that's with the government, whether it be driving license or I don't know, heavy vehicle license or any sort of thing like license to, I don't know, drive a heavy excavator or a crane or something. They claim they can verify and check all that. Also down to some things like hunting licenses or fishing licenses, or whether or not you've got a license to drive a boat in a motorboat in inland waterways, all that sort of stuff. They claim they can They can check. They can also claim. They can check if you've got a clean license. If you've had speeding fines, those sorts of things. They claim they can check that. Also claim they can check if you're in any sort of debt, as in default debt. They claim they can check that. I don't know how. That surely should be private, wouldn't it? And a number of other things. Let me just have a look here, because I made a list of them. So I'll just, well, this is the email that they sent. Let me see here. Okay, I'm just getting it now. So, if you've got any digital IDs or anything like that, they claim they can check your status, as in, are you a citizen or a non-citizen, or a citizen or a non-citizen that's got some sort of a work permit. They claim they can check all that. They also, this is a bit of a worry, they claim they can check if you have any health conditions. So, if you've got, I don't know, a bad heart or something like that, they claim they can check all that sort of stuff. They claim they can even look at your how many vaccinations. I don't know how far back they go on that. What if someone's like me? I'm in my 60s now. Do they go back to when I was 5 years old and got a polio fucking vaccination? I mean, Jesus. Also any sort of also, I mean, this is an interesting one. They say they can check to see if you've got any outstanding, like warrants or any legal issues, and they claim they can go back 10 years, or in brackets here, longer if necessary, to determine whether or not you've got any, you've ever been charged by the police. They claim they can check to see if you're on any pedophile register or anything like that. They also claim they can decide which vehicle you own. In some employment, for example, the company the employer may say you've got to provide your own vehicle, and the employer pays like some mileage allowance or some equivalent. But you have to have an up-to-date car, for presentation to, like, say, a salesman or a sales representative, that sort of thing. And so these guys claim they can say what car you own, how old it is, and if it's been in an accident, had an insurance claim on. I reckon they can do all that. Now, I don't know how much of this is legal. I mean, according to the privacy, various privacy laws that exist, nearly all of this, you need the permission of the person to do this. Now, there's a technicality in some of the, say, employment adverts where they may say that, okay, you have to register with us before you can actually apply for a job. Now, this was initially presented to Australians as this was a way to filter out people who were trying to apply for jobs from overseas, because there's masses and masses of people from the third world that may have a relative living in Australia, and they just say, well, I live in Australia and that's my address. Then when they get a job, or if they get a job, they then apply for some sort of a work permit. So, look, I've got a job. I mean, hey. So they try that scam, and it's widespread. So it was sold to us that registering before you apply for a job is a way of filtering out the third world scammers who are still in the third world, but wanting to scam their way into a first world country, Australia in this case. But it's gone beyond that, because, and there's been quite a few articles around about it, where you're not allowed to apply for any sort of, or in many places, not every place, you're not allowed to apply for a job until you're registered. And once you register, or the process of registering is you sign away all your rights to any privacy. You allow the employer to check on anything about you without your knowledge or consent. They can just decide to do it or not do it. So anyway, there's a whole lot of issues around what is and isn't privacy. Another way around, some of the bigger job boards in Australia have introduced this thing where if you want to be like I don't know what they call it, a gold standard job applicant, say, and then you sign over or sign away any rights to privacy. So if you claim you've got, you're in good health or something, or you've got a degree in gender studies or lesbian dance theory or something, that can be all verified, or somehow, I don't know how they do it, it can be all verified, and then can be saying, well, this person has claimed they worked here for 10 years, untrue, false. They claim they're in good health, false. They claim they've got a gender studies degree, false, or a lesbian degree, they've only got a diploma and not a degree, and so on and so forth. So, but this is provided to a would-be employer. It's not provided to you, the applicant. So the applicant doesn't know that the potential employer is getting all this, Billy Bob's making all these false statements, or Billie Jean's claiming to have a PhD in lesbian dance theory, but it's really only a diploma, and those sorts of things. So there's a lot of information that's provided to would-be employee that you don't know they've been provided with. So again, this issue of privacy comes up, and because you may decide, well, I don't want to participate in that gold standard thing. If this is what you're doing, you're effectively telling the employer, well, don't employ Billy Bob because he says he's got a lesbian dance theory degree and he hasn't, that type of thing. So what else do they do here? They claim to have a few other checks that they do. For example, if you've got some sort of a medical, like a minimal medical qualification, like your nursing, or I don't know, advanced first aid, things like that. They claim they can check on all of that. Or if you're like a beach lifeguard, lifesaver at the beach, and you're certified, they claim. So they can effectively claim that they can check on any alleged certification you have. Again, I don't know how they do that, because some of those certifications are with private companies, not with the government. So having a look at this, so the guy is saying to me, you can find out anything about anybody. Anybody applies for a job, you can find out when they last took a shit. That's how much we can find out about them. But then it comes to, he explains the reason for all this, the reason they do all this, and why he alleges, at least, it's in big demand around the traps, is because of all the mass migration. So he readily concedes that mass migration brought in a whole lot of scammers, a whole lot of. Now I can verify this, like the amount of, every single Indian that I ever hired who claimed to have a qualification, either they didn't have it, or that they had corruptly just purchased it and hadn't done a day of study or passed a single exam to get it, one or the other. Now, so I understand how this sort of service has come into being. I do get that, but the irony is that because in third world countries, the verification process is, as the guy admitted, hopelessly unreliable. So if somebody from Bangladesh says they've got a triple PhD, you can't really check on it. It's a chaotic, corrupt basket case country, and the people that have there's numerous degree factories there. For example, you just pay your $100 and then they give you the certificate saying you've got a degree in I don't know, computer science, whatever it might be. Now you're on their register as having a degree in computer science, so you tend to do a verification on it. Maybe say, yep, Armin Shah, he's definitely got the fucking computer science degree, and okay, so verified. But in reality, it's not a degree. He just paid the $100 and got the bit of paper and was on the list. So at the guy's own admission, he's telling me we can't check on third world people reliably. There's just, we don't have the levels of probity in the third world. We don't have that ability to look at it. So in reality, all you can check on is people in and straight white people, effectively. I mean, they've got a little disclaimer in there saying we don't target minorities. So if you're the black lesbian, you may have lived in the West all your life, born in the West, but they're arguing in their disclaimers that, well, we don't target those people. If we find sort of unfavorable information about them, we don't really share it. It's only the straight white people. So again, you've got this, the only rigorous checking is straight white people, not all the other people. So it's a useless piece of shit, this service. It's not treating everybody equally in the third world and the first world and so on. They're only really going after straight white people. And this was the bit that rather irritated. I didn't tell him this. I wanted to hear it all, and I had to do that. I just had to shut up and listen. But he sort of continued on. I mean, he even suggested, and this is rather sinister, to say, look, if there's somebody applies for the job and they're well qualified and they're the right candidate, but you don't really want them, they annoy you in some way, or you just don't want them around, or something like that, then I can guarantee you, the guy says that our checks on their background are so rigorous that if they dropped if they spat on the sidewalk 20 years ago, we'll find it. We'll have it. We will find you something you can use to disqualify them. Now that's not the point of this sort of service. The point of this sort of service is to say someone claims they've got, someone applying for, I don't know, a job in a hospital, say applying for a job in a hospital and claim they've got a medical degree and they work for 10 years at hospital such and such or so and so. That can be checked. So, well, this dude doesn't have a degree, or this woman doesn't have a medical degree and they've never worked at a university, never worked in a medical practice. That's what it's for. But trying to pick up people who to say they've instead of worked 100 days at a place, they worked 99 days, false, and putting a report saying the alleged falsehoods, I think that defeats the purpose of it and undermines the very integrity that they claim to be selling. So that's that was how I was irritated with the guy. I felt. I mean, if he'd been in front of me, as in he'd come into my office, I'd have probably waited until he'd stopped and had a good old go. But look, that's what's around there. I guess the way he was gloating about the snooping. We can see you, but you can't see us, that sort of thing. I mean, what sort of fucking people get into that? Seriously. You've been with Tacitus today in your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.